Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to How to Use Social Media for Sales Without Spending a Bunch of Money. My name is Colin Mahan, and I'm a program manager at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit dedicated to enabling entrepreneurs from all over the world to realize their maximum potentials and grow. As you may have just seen in the chat, the Nasdaq Center, along with our partner Mentor Cloud, launched a free mentor matching platform for entrepreneurs called Mentor Makers. You can create your own advisory board to guide and inspire you with in-the-moment mentorship from topic experts and professionals dedicated to providing exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So find or become a mentor today by using the link in the chat. Mentorship matters to all entrepreneurs. Their success is dependent on it. Now, none of what we do here at the center could be possible without all the amazing support from our sponsors, including Nasdaq, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, and BPM. We're grateful and humbled by their contributions. Quick housekeeping item, we're going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event. So please submit your questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We saw a bunch of your questions come in the registration form, so hopefully we'll get to as many as we can. During these still unique times, we're curious on how sentiment is among the entrepreneurs we work with. So before we get started, just let us know how you're feeling about your business. So I'm going to launch this poll. Thanks everybody for joining. Hello from Canada. All righty. Well, I'm going to let this roll for another second and share these results with you all. Looks like optimism's on the rise, but totally understand that there's a little bit of survival mode and anxiety and a little fear. So hopefully this presentation will help alleviate some of those negative feelings. So without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our special guest, Marie Smith. She's the CIO and co-founder of Data 360. Marie, so happy to have you.
Thanks, Colin. Thank you so much. Well, hey, everybody. Happy to alleviate some of the anxiety and share some great opportunities with each of you. So today's session is called How to Use Social Media for Sales Without Spending a Bunch of Money. And you might wonder, why did we create this course? We always got a lot of questions at Data 360 about tactics and how to do this and how to do that. And the biggest thing was, the biggest set of questions we ever got was social media. We know it's powerful. We know there's a lot of opportunity there, but I keep spending money on ads and I'm not getting a lot of results. So we created a workshop around how to use what's called organic social media and earned media to be able to produce results for your company. So a little bit about me. I'm the CIO and co-founder of Data 360, one of 3 co-founders. My primary job is as a software architect in Reformed Creative. So I started in the media industry way back in the day with a company called AOL. If you remember that company, You've Got Mail, right? And worked on Academy Award-winning technologies. I've contributed over $100 million in revenue to companies and projects. And with Data 360, we're expected to facilitate nearly over $300 million in transactions next year. So my passions are everything from food to technology, and I love being a woman, queer, Black, Latina, Asian technologist. I know that's a handful, but I love being all of those things. So about social media. So right now, only 26% of respondents in the social media poll said that they know how to use social for selling, right? So most people know how to kind of like post pictures of themselves. They know how to talk a little bit about their business, but the selling part is evasive. And 31% of sales professionals in the corporate world say that their selling process includes social. So that means 70% are missing social out of their repertoire. So this is a very common problem. So if you don't know, this is how you're going to know, because the very few people do know. So right now we're going to eliminate some of these things. And on the flip side, the social consumer, the people who are looking for goods and services online, say that 89% say that providing content via social media is totally acceptable. They're actually looking for things to buy. It's kind of like the mall, if you will, the browsing process, right? Happens a lot on social, right? And it's that surprising delight factor that you get when you usually go like to a store or to a mall or to a entertainment complex. You don't know what you're going to see. And so people use social media in that same way. So you're gonna have to think about how can you create out novel opportunities for businesses and for your consumers to know your business, kind of like how they go down a mall, right? And so 85% use social networks for business. So a lot of people know about the networking part, but the sales is where we need to get. And then 73% have engaged with a vendor on social media. So they're looking for you. They're looking to see what you're about. They're looking at articles. They're looking at podcasts. Even with Data 360, we close a very, very large deal just from LinkedIn, right? They listen to our podcast, and they said, "Hey, this is a great company. I really want to get to know them," and they actually wound up being actually our largest partnership to date. And so 59% are influenced by at least one social network when purchasing, right? So all of this is to say social media is an extremely powerful tool for your sales process. Now, the question is, who's your audience? Or the questions are, who's your audience? How can you reach them? What are your goals, right? And so you have to choose the right social media platform for sales to your particular audience. So when you look at Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, these are the different audiences. So, if you're, even with Facebook, we found 25 to 54, or is actually for us, our audience, but 25 to 34 with Facebook, it's about building relationships, building brand loyalty, and there is a limited reach. And it's a limited reach because Facebook limits it so that you buy advertisements. So you need to be aware of that limitation in Facebook. Twitter, there's millions of users, but mostly it's for publicity, right? Or to show, broadcast an event or broadcast a special opportunity. Pinterest, mostly female audience and mostly about scrapbooking. So if you have clothes or gardening or food or any kind of tangible good, with Pinterest, with YouTube, and generally with Instagram, you're going to have that kind of good lead generation from those tools, right? But how they function are very different. So you have to make sure that as you plan, you pick an audience, pick one platform where you're going to master that platform, but you don't want to stay there. You want to actually keep growing, keep changing, and keep looking at how you can address different audiences in different ways, right? So just because you're a food product doesn't mean that you don't have sales to make on LinkedIn, right? Even though LinkedIn is about news articles and networking and business development, you may have other kinds of relationships, not just your primary sales relationships. It might be referral partners, it might be networking partners, it might be channel partners, there might be distribution, other things you need to think about when it comes to LinkedIn. So every single channel can address every single kind of business. It's just knowing where your business fits in each channel.
Hey, Maria, if you're intending to share your screen, I don't see it, but everything's great so far. You got my attention.
Oh.
I was like, oh, this is the greatest lead-in ever.
This is the greatest lead-in with no share screen. Okay.
All right. No, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
There we go.
You can just full
now
screen.
I'm there. Can you see me now?
Perfect. Awesome. All righty.
There we go. So there's about me. So there are the statistics that we went over, which are that 26% of respondents don't know how to use social for selling, and 31% of professionals say that it's critical to their social process. So there's a gap, right? That we just went over, talking about our sales, our social consumers. They need you via social media. And this is a chart I was just going over about choosing the right platform. So making sure that you know what platform is appropriate for your business, making sure you understand what your goals are, and then matching those, right, to the right platform. So one is you want to pick one platform that is your primary superpower, and then from there you want to expand. And so you don't want to just stay in one place or hope that one channel fits your whole strategy. You want to actually strategize according to each channel. There are ways that every business fits every single social media channel. Okay, so now we're back where I was. So 4 key sales statistics. 82% of prospects can be reached via social media. Thursday is the best day to prospect. And I'll tell you the secret to Thursday. Thursday is the best way to practice because Friday is when people pretty much start to tune out from work, right? And so Thursday is kind of the lead into that day. So starting kind of Thursday evening is where people really start to like surf around and kind of see what's going on and catch up with people, catch up with the news, catch up with all those different things. Thursday is the best day to prospect for sure. Sales reps who use social selling are 50% more likely to meet or exceed their quota. So if you're a solo founder, if you have a big sales team, social selling is a huge part of your strategy. If you're not using it now, you should be using it quickly. You should change that. And 50% of websites only get 15 seconds of attention. So a lot of companies actually emphasize so much on their website and making it pretty and doing all these different things, but they're actually not, the user is not really looking at your website. The user is looking at your entire footprint. And that's something that we preach at Data 360 all the time. That's why we call Data 360. This is about data management on all platforms. So making sure that you have opportunities and engagement across all the different platforms, across listings, across, you have e-commerce presence on different sites and things like that, so that you have the whole social selling experience dialed in, because your website is most likely only going to get about that 15 seconds unless you've engaged them on another platform. Once you've engaged them on another platform, then your website becomes a lot more meaningful. So we're going to talk about some key tactics. So there's 6 altogether. So the first one is post everywhere from one place. So that means have the good tools in place so that you can quickly post, schedule your post, calendar your post, all in one piece of software. Engage with your followers. So we'll talk about what engagement means, building relationships, right? So often people try to do the one and done, link, buy my stuff. That doesn't really work. You really have to build relationships and build engagement with your users, right? So like, for example, this webinar is our engagement with you. So that's how you build relationships. You have people get to know you, your thoughts, your thought leadership, all that fun stuff. You want to make sure to focus on generating leads, right? So it's fun to socialize, it's fun to network, it's fun to agree, it's fun to do social causes, it's fun to do all that stuff. But you want to make sure that everything you're doing focuses on lead generation. Mobile and video friendly. You have to have mobile and video. It's like 90% of the internet. So even with Data 360, with our strategy, we're switching a lot of things over to mobile and video right now because it's so pervasive and it's so much of what's happening on the internet. Know your goals. You have to know what stage you're in. So you can't be a small fry and pretend to be a big business. You can't do the same strategies as Coca-Cola or Pepsi or I'm showing my age now, or Ford or any of those companies, right? So those big companies, you're not Amazon, you're not Facebook, you're not Twitter. You have to be at the stage that you're at. And you have to look at your relationships, your engagement, and your social leads, and what you're enrolling people in according to your current status and your current goals. So you want to make sure and focus on those goals and don't get distracted so easily. Don't be trying to do every single thing. So you hear about a summit, don't try to do a summit and do your social media strategy. Pick one strategy, get successful, move on to the next building block, get successful. And that way you have a solid foundation with multiple building blocks. So the post everywhere from one place. So we're a big fan of Buffer. Not to say the Buffer is the end all be all, but we love Buffer because it reaches most platforms, every platform except TikTok. TikTok has unique tools, and we can talk a little bit more about TikTok at the end. But make sure you have a tool that you're comfortable working with, that you understand thoroughly, you've studied, right? So we always say, look, don't just pick up tools and kind of like futz around. Make sure you study that tool. Make sure you know why it's valuable. Make sure you know its strengths, its weaknesses, and its shortcomings. And so, also your tool is going to ask, you need to ask yourself when you build a tool, are you more technical? Are you less technical? Which channel is your superpower, right? Some tools are better for Twitter. Some tools are better for LinkedIn. Some tools are better for Facebook. Some tools are better for Instagram. And some tools are better for TikTok individually, right? But what we recommend is make sure you have a tool that can address multiple platforms. So as you grow, you don't have to keep switching tools. It is a choice. You can do that, and then you can do that if you're less technical. Some tools are made for less technical people for a certain platform. Just be careful you don't go into the rabbit hole of too many tools. Engage your followers. So make sure that when you engage your followers, you at least cover the top 3 ways. You want to make sure you like, share, and retweet your target customers on social media. So that doesn't mean be superficial. What that means is find the people who you think are thought leaders, who you follow, who you think are valuable, whose content you think will be valuable for your audience. And then you want to like, share, and retweet those people. You don't want it to be gratuitous. You don't want it to be fake, right? You want to make sure that you actually enjoy, admire those people, that those companies, and that is actually part of your business strategy, is part of your ecosystem. And those are the people you want to promote and showcase on your social media. And then you want to make sure that that content, as I mentioned before, is great to the needs of your actual audience. So is that content that you're sharing sharing both from your own blogs or your own resources and the influencers that you like, is that actually valuable to your overall community, right? So what is the purpose of that community again? And that's part of knowing where you're at. So if you're in product development and you're working on a certain kind of angle with your product, make sure that your content reflects that, and that you actually are educating your customers around that product in the ecosystem of that product. And then the third way is making sure that you have interest online or live events, right? So you do interesting things, do things that engage people in terms of education, like this event, or making sure that you have the opportunities that you can give your customers online that are special. Maybe you have a special relationship that can give them something for free. So like we often give out software grants at Data 360. So that's a unique opportunity that's not available everywhere in the market. So we want to also make sure that you give them fun times, right? You have parties, you have social events, you have games, right? Things like that that can engage your audience and grow your followers, right? So just posting, hey, how's everybody doing, is not enough. So this falls on to generating leads, right? So giving your clients ways to, or your leads, your targets, ways to get to know you, right? That are about you and your product and service, but also not just about you and your product and service. They're about your entire ecosystem. So making sure that you have, maybe you feature yourself. So we have podcasts where our companies are featured, I'm featured. We talk about our story, our how we came to be, and all of that fun stuff. We teach at universities, things like that. So making sure that you have ways to actually express yourself in different expertise, and so different ways to showcase your expertise, different angles, right? So making sure that you have a sort of a clever mix of opportunities. So as we do all these great things, we notice that people get engaged for different reasons. And that's what starts bringing in leads, and that's what starts bringing in opportunities. And don't forget that there are other communities that may be related to your audience, that you can engage in those communities and showcase your talent and showcase your expertise. And then they come over and become leads for you, or join your social media, and so on and so forth. And then you want to make sure that when you do giveaways, or you do lead magnets, or any of those kinds of things, that those lead magnets are meaningful. So you want to make sure that everything you do has some type of tie back to the objectives you're looking to achieve with your audience. Again, making sure mobile and video friendly. So, make sure content is mobile and video friendly. So definitely making sure you understand mobile responsive tools, right? So if your websites are not yet mobile responsive, or you don't know what I'm saying, Google mobile responsive websites. And you'll understand what that means is that it formats, it actually stacks well. So your content goes from a square to this rectangle, right? And it actually stacks in such a way that it can be viewed on a mobile phone very easily. So you want to make sure that you have that. If you have certain older systems or tools, if you're using like a GoDaddy, that may not be the case, right? So you might want to be check some of the tools that you're using, make sure that things are mobile responsive, and then making sure you have video. So there are tons and tons and tons of sites now that help you generate video besides just pointing a camera at yourself. So there are videos where you can create little commercials on your own. There are sites where you can create different interstitials or graphics that basically you don't have to animate. They're already pre-animated. You just type your company's name in them. So there are lots and lots of tools to do that. So don't think video is hard. Again, Google is your friend. Make sure you understand that video, you can type in sort of video tools or video animation tools or video out the box or different things like that. So there are all kinds of video tools because video accounted for 74% of global internet traffic in 2017, and last year it was 82%. So you can imagine in 2021, it's probably even higher. And then making sure you know your goals, right? So first goals are first. And what we mean by that is you have to build things up step by step, right? So what stage are you in? Are you in business product service design, right? Are you just now getting your service out there? Are you doing testing and feedback? Are you in alpha, beta, launch? Are you community building? What are you doing specifically? You don't want to just do what we call spray and pray, right? So you just throw everything out there and hope that something comes back. You want to be intentional, and you want to understand what are the metrics and what are the things you actually need to know in that stage from your audience. And then you utilize social to get that out, that data, get that opportunity, get that information back from your audience so that you can move to the next step with your service. So your service and your social media and your objectives move in parallel. They move together. So you want to make sure that everything you're doing works in harmony, right? So that's what we mean by ecosystem. Ecosystems have to move as a one system, right? So you're starting out small and then you're growing bigger, 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 right? With your ecosystem. So it starts out with one channel, maybe in one question. Maybe you're just testing out your product design and you're in a product design phase. So maybe your ecosystem is just around product management in the beginning, right? And then you have project management people that you follow, and you're doing user testing, and then maybe you have a second community around user testing as a second objective. And then the third objective is feedback, and the fourth objective is alpha. So you can build out things that way so that they're very synchronous and very aligned with your business goals. So focus on your immediate opportunity and be successful in meeting your first goal. So that's what we mean, first goals are first. And lastly, focus. Focus, 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 focus. Don't get distracted, right? It's so easy to go here and there. As one of my sisters used to say, squirrel, right? It's so easy to just immediately start focusing. So I find myself doing this every day. I have to always have my list next to me so I know what I'm supposed to be focused on, because there's so many different things that pop up, so many emails, so many Facebook lives, Instagram lives, all these different things. You want to make sure to be intentional with your time, right? And if you're going to use it for sales, social media for sales and not some other purpose, you have to be intentional. You have to start weeding out what it is that is not part of your goal until you get to your goal. And it's nice to look at that other stuff, look at it in your quote unquote downtime. So I have both social media downtime where there are things that are not relevant to our business goals, and I have time where we focus on our business goals. So make sure you have both of those things in place. So once you start to get the hang of things, this is kind of like the social selling goals, right? This is like hashtag goals for all social selling. You want to make sure that you have certain mechanisms in place once you're actually launched into the market. So some of you guys may be more mature. You're not just at the beginning stages. and you actually want to learn kind of what are all the fundamentals I need to have in place, right? So the first fundamental is called social listening and sentiment analysis. So where once you have all your strategies in place, you have your content in place, it's working, you're reaching millions of followers, or even thousands, right? You want to be able to talk about or listen for using software, right? Your business. Who's talking about your business? Is it being picked up in the media? Is somebody saying something negative? Is somebody saying something positive? You want to be able to listen using tools. So, right, so you can look for social listening software, and then be able to see how your business is working online, right? Then you also want to be able to monitor your competitors. So you'll hear social listening and monitoring tools. So eventually, once you reach those thousands of users, or say you're already there, you don't know what to do next, make sure you're looking at competitors, see what they're doing, see how they're engaging with customers, see what kind of fun programs they're putting together, or responses, or all those different things. Look at what's happening in the market, right? That includes looking at competitors, right? So both looking for yourself and competitors. And then you also want to make sure you have a tool to track research and content, right? So a lot of people don't know, how do you get content? Where do I get content, right? You have to spend some of your week, say maybe a couple hours a week, looking for content for your social, and making sure that you have content that's relevant to your audience, making sure you have influencers that you follow that are relative to your audience, right? There's software that also works to track that research and do that content curation. But in the beginning, it might be a couple hours, and then you have a tool and you have a team that's managing those things as well. And then the next part you want to do is make sure you have tools to share and interact, right? So I love the tool, it's called Sprout Social, right? And it's a tool to actually manage your team to listen, watch, monitor, research content, and share content to your audience on a workflow basis, right? So you can basically allocate it to a team member, that team member can greenlight the content, and then from there, that content can be shared across multiple platforms, across certain platforms, depending on your strategy. And then acting on data, right? So with Sprout Social, one of the things it does is it also collects reports on engagement statistics, all the different pieces of how everything works, all the different tools about, so for example, which content got the best clicks, right? And how does that compare to my competitors? What is the different business intelligence I have around my market, right? And how do I turn that into a content strategy? So it has all kinds of data tools that are fantastic in that tool. And Sprout Social is not the only one, there are many others. We just happen to love that particular tool. So the goal is, once you have your foundation in place, you also have your workflow and your tool set for the next level, right? Which is when you start working on your business to actually grow more effectively. So none of these things are cost a ton of money. So for example, Buffer is free to $15 a month. Most of the data you can actually download from Facebook or from Twitter or from LinkedIn. And you can also do Sprout Social for $99 a user. So all of these things are fairly accessible. It's the mind power that you have to have, right? So the less you know, the more you have to pay. The more you know, the less you have to pay. And that's sort of the principle of earned media, right? Is if you don't want to pay Facebook and Google 75% of your budget to manage opportunities for you, you can learn how to manage the opportunities for yourself and train the algorithms and do the content that you want to do and find the right people. Because the more that you focus on your strategy and the more that you show the sites what you're working on, the more that they will provide the same to you and grow your business. So they'll actually grow it based on who you're following, your influencers, they'll recommend others like those, who you're selling to, they'll recommend other customers like the customers. So each of the platforms is designed to amplify a business. So the more that you have a focused opportunity on the platforms, and then you have your tools, right? So your early stage tool like a Buffer and your late stage tool like a Sprout Social, you'll be able to teach each platform what you're looking for. So that is pretty much it. I do want to share a couple of resources also with you around social. So move this bar out of the way. One is going to be in the resource guide, which is called your social selling cheat sheet. And so there are tons and tons of tools within each of the resources that we provided, but this one is one of my favorites. It's from a guy called the Social Sellinator. And so he has all of the tools that you need to research, prospect, and connect. So how do you do research? What are the tools that you can do to use words? So that's from beginner to advanced. How do you identify content, right? So finding content, topic generators. So HubSpot has a great blog topic generator when you just can't think of what to write. And there are even copywriting tools that are generated by AI. So you can just write in AI copywriter, and you'll find about 7 or 8 really powerful tools that help you generate ideas, help you generate copy. We use them all the time. And then there are some content curators, right? And there's tons of content that you can put out there also where like they'll distribute your content to other people to use on social media and vice versa. So Q does that. We love Q. Automation, right? So learning how to put your posts into automated loops so you don't have to keep constantly manually posting, right? So Buffer's on here, but there's also LinkedIn has content that they provide to you. There's recur posts. And some of these I think there's a couple of these that are older that are not available anymore. Excuse me. But there are quite a few that will do wonderful things. And then Lumen 5, let me see if this is actually active. What's great about Lumen 5, so we talked about video, and Lumen 5 is a video maker that will actually take your blog and help you turn it into videos, right? And so even when you think you can't make a video or you don't know how to make a video, there are wonderful tools like Lumen 5 that will help you make videos. So you can make photo videos, Facebook videos, YouTube videos. There are even tools, for example, like synesthesia. Always, do I spell it right? Synesthesia. Yes, I can spell it right. .ai that are wonderful tools where they could actually make full videos for you. I'll have to put in the chat. They can make full videos for you where you can actually have avatars that actually look like human beings and talk like human beings for you. So those are the same kind of things like Lumen 5, where they could make promos and different agreements for you. And then there are many other tools on here. There are many tools in the chat. The other thing that Social Sellinator talks about are different metrics to watch, which are number of LinkedIn connections, number of followers, views per post, engagements per post, visitors per profile. Those are the metrics that you want to look at. Twitter, same kinds of metrics, number of followers, impressions, engagement, demographics. So each platform has its own analytics that you can check. Facebook has what's now called the Business Center, which has the connections, the likes, your reach, your engagement, your demographics. And then the Facebook Business Center also covers Instagram, which has the followers, your audience growth, your traffic engagement, and your demographics. And then when you look at what you should do, what's great about the social selling cheat sheet, it has your principles that you can just remember, right? It's about social. It's not just about selling, right? So what we mean by that is selling through relationships, making sure your relationships are solid and you have engagement around the content and around the offerings that you provide, not just, hey, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. Listen more than you speak. So that means looking at what is your audience talking about, right? And maybe for every post you make, read 10, right? Instead of just reading a few posts and then reacting and saying, okay, I think you could buy my stuff. Offering what others need, not what you have, right? So making sure they need what you have, right? And you're going to verify that by following people, reading their posts. Being consistent, right? Developing trust and relationships take time. So don't expect that overnight you're gonna develop it, right? It's gonna be 3 to 4 months, right? So that big opportunity I was telling you we made on LinkedIn, that was the 8-month relationship where he learned what we were up to, began to trust us, and then we began to develop that relationship and talk about different opportunities. And we got 3 contracts out of that one individual. So being personable, being positive, being a helpful advisor. So if you haven't heard of a strategy, it's called Trusted Advisor. There are other strategies that are in the resource guide as well, where you can basically learn different techniques to develop those relationships. If you don't know how to do this, you don't know what relationships should look like online, there are actual different methodologies for doing that in sales. And then lastly, there are sample monthly engagement calendars on here. And so it just tells you what to do and how many, that's 45 minutes sort of each week. What do you do, right? So for example, on Monday, you can schedule 7 posts. Twitter, you can schedule 35 posts, and that takes about 30 minutes if you have the right tool, right? So if you use Buffer or some other tool, you can do that. And then on Wednesday, you want to accept invitations and engage. You want to follow back and engage, right? And that takes about 15 minutes on Twitter and LinkedIn. And then if you add other platforms in there, if you're already active on those platforms, think about what you can do on Tuesday and Thursday on those platforms. Think about what platform is going to be great on Friday, right? So probably like a TikTok or an Instagram where people are chilling out, right? Do you have chill out content? Do you have things where people can lounge and get to know each other? That's going to be your Instagram and TikTok content. It's not going to be serious business engagement, right? That business engagement is going to happen on those Mondays and Wednesdays, probably Tuesdays also. Make time for Facebook, right? And developing your audience on Facebook, engage in Facebook groups, right? So looking at how you can spend, 45 minutes a week at least, right? And maybe even more if you already have channels active, right? If you don't have channels active, just focus on 1 or 2. And then the best times to engage are also on here as well, which is Tuesday through Thursday are most recommended days to post, Thursday being the optimal. Noon to 5 p.m. is the most optimal time on LinkedIn. 8 to 5 p.m. are good days to post on weekdays, so on and so forth. So it has all the different days that are strongest for each platform. So make sure to pay attention to those kinds of mechanics. And then, build out a map, right? Use an Excel spreadsheet, use a notepad to sort of think about how you're going to do your strategy every day and every week and every month, and how that builds up that foundation, right? And where you are. So, it just takes planning, takes some time. If you want to consult with some experts, you can happily reach out to us, or you can reach out to other experts. HubSpot, I cannot recommend enough, has tons and tons of library tools. We've also put together a curation of content for you as well, including this social selling cheat sheet, shocking stats that will change the way you sell in 2020, so on and so forth. And so there are lots of different ones. And the sales methodologies course was the one that I had mentioned that is just fantastic, also from HubSpot, but fantastic in explaining all the different ways that you can put together. Let's see if I can get it zoomed in here. Actually, let me present. All the different ways that you can actually put together a really great sales strategy. So I can't recommend HubSpot enough. So It talks about sales methodologies, so what's called spin selling. It also talks about neat selling, things like that. So your HubSpot's library, if you haven't checked it out recently, it is amazing for some of these to put sort of two and two together. So one is you want to make sure you put together your sales overall sort of content strategy, your engagement strategy, but you also want to know what is going to be your style of selling. Your style of selling will influence how you put everything together. So that would be the last piece of advice, is also think about how you're gonna not just the tactics, but what is it that you're actually doing from a sales perspective, right? And so there are many different kinds of ways to think about that. So make sure that you check out this article. It is amazing to get you overall into all the different aspects of selling and all the different ways that you can think about how to put your plan together. Okay, so I think that's about it for me. Again, if you have any questions, here's our contact information. Feel free to reach out to us and we will happily respond. And Colin, I'll hand it over to you for Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marie, for the great overview. Really appreciate it. And hopefully everyone gets access to those awesome resources when we follow up. And as many have asked, we will follow up with a recording and all of these great resources after the event and the post-event follow-up. So don't worry, we have access. Before we jump into Q&A, as you think about your questions for Marie, we're going to just launch a final poll that will help us understand at the center what the challenges that you're experiencing at your business are. So hopefully by giving us this vote, we can host these talks, presentations, workshops on these topics that you guys are asking us for. So appreciate you all giving us a moment, and thanks for the questions. We're going to jump into Q&A and hopefully we'll get to all of them. There's been some really great ones. Let's see. So I'm going to share those results. Sales and marketing. What do you know? We're here to talk about social media and sales. So that's definitely going to be something that we're going to be offering more in the coming months. So Marie, I'm going to jump right in. And I think you covered some of these earlier, but
Okay.
see what we can do. Let's see, best platforms for B2B versus B2C.
Best platform. So traditionally LinkedIn is the best platform for B2B and B2C. I mean, B2B versus B2C. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn is a hotbed of activity. So again, you have to kind of watch getting distracted. But LinkedIn is a great tool. And there's lots of tools and add-ins to LinkedIn. You have to be sort of careful because LinkedIn does regulate what can be added onto LinkedIn, and they will ban you if you have the wrong tool attached to LinkedIn. So just be careful, make sure the tools you're picking up are not banned. But in the Chrome store, there are tons of tools around leveraging LinkedIn.
Yeah, I've heard that if you add too many people in one day, like through a bot or whatever, it'll boot you and a bunch of different stuff like that.
A whole lot of things, right? And if you look like a robot, they'll start treating you like a robot. So just be careful.
Jay Wolf says, love your presentation. What video tools do you personally recommend? Is there one that is the most basic / easy for a new user?
Yeah, so I use Wondershare. I think Wondershare is pretty awesome as far as a desktop tool. Mm-hmm. There are a load. I mean, I cannot even keep track of how many mobile tools there are for video. So, I mean, there's just tons that just automatically create video. The main thing is you can't, with the mobile tools, because I've tried, you can't load video in to edit. It's really about the video you create on your phone. But if you have video you want to edit, Wondershare, I love that tool. It's called Wondershare by Filmora. It's great.
Great. So on going back to the B2C front, what platforms should people spend more time on when using social media for B2C engagement?
Yeah, it depends. So if it's shopping, B2C, nothing really beats Instagram, because it's just a visual. And Pinterest is really is still, I think, underutilized for a lot of companies. And so, but there are pins where you can actually have people shop directly from Pinterest to your website. So you can't really underestimate Pinterest. I think people still don't quite understand it all the way, but it is a powerful platform.
That's good advice. Somebody says, I was told people don't actually read posts, but just see the pretty pictures. Is that true?
No, that's not entirely true. So what it is the picture will get their attention, and once they like the picture, then they'll read the post. So the pictures do matter. All pictures matter. And so you have to make sure that you have pictures or video in your posts to grab people's attention. Because if it's just text, their eyes sort of glaze over. I hate to say it. I'm a reader. I love reading, but pictures win.
And just a picture and no text doesn't give anybody any context on what to do, right?
Right, unless it's a meme. Or a GIF.
I love them. Ooh, this one's kind of specific, but might be helpful for everyone to learn. So what if their target audience, i.e. target customer is older men over 50?
Older men over 50, definitely LinkedIn. Facebook actually has a lot of seniors on it as well. I think it has a shocking amount of seniors. I actually was retained by an insurance company to engage seniors on Facebook. And at the time, the population of seniors was growing significantly. And the reason why older men are reachable on Facebook and older women are reachable on Facebook is because of their grandkids, because they want to be able to see and share pictures of their grandkids. That's like a huge reason. And then there's also a lot of socialization groups for older people that are on Facebook. Lots and lots. So I would say, don't count on Facebook. You just have to be able to join those groups. If you're not an older person and you're trying to join the older person's group, you're not going to be able to do that. But you can at least note where the groups are, and you can reach out to the administrators and see if you can create some kind of deal or market in some kind of way to their group.
Helpful. Question here around testing. So would testing feedback mean seeing who's interested in your services?
Testing feedback primarily on social is both who's interested in your services, but also engagement, right? So like, who are your people? Who are your core super fans that really want to learn what you're talking about, right? Who is like super nerdy for what you do, right? There's always somebody who's totally like, wears the t-shirt, you don't know who they are, right? But they like, say I just bought tropical fruits online, right? So there are people who are super fanatical about tropical fruits, and they live and breathe them, and they do recipes, and they talk about them all the time, and they go to tropical places. Those people are the people you want to test with, right? Test your content and test your offers.
Testing is key. And measuring the engagement, and then informing what to do next from there. And that's what you've been chiming about this whole time. All right, let's see other ones. Do you recommend the LinkedIn Premium service?
Yes and no. Yes, I recommend LinkedIn Premium services because you're less likely to get penalized if you start using other tools and you have LinkedIn Premium. It doesn't, they just want to be able to sell LinkedIn Premium. And the other thing about LinkedIn Premium that's really interesting is they are adding more functionality on the back end. So it's worth checking out, at least once a quarter to kind of see what the updates are if you don't want to keep a steady subscription. But and there have been lots of times where LinkedIn Premium, they've offered me, new trials, every year to say, hey, we've updated the platform. What do you think? And things like that. So, take advantage of those opportunities. And then there are the organizations that offer LinkedIn Premium for so many months or a year or whatever. So look out for those opportunities. So I do recommend that you check it out if you can.
Awesome. I have a feeling that we're going to get it depends here, but what's your position on Facebook groups? And if they're a good idea to capture the ear of your target audience?
Yeah, it depends. But what I'll say, okay, so here's what I'll say about Facebook groups. If you're the admin of a group, it is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work monitoring content and people and bad actors and all that fun stuff. You have to really make a clear decision about how you want to manage a group and what the vibe of the group is. So sometimes people really monitor the content really heavily, and it's a one directional site where literally meaning you, the admin, post most of the content. There are some sites where groups where the moderator will check all the content that goes in, but they won't be the primary poster. And then there's some sites where they just check the people, and then the people are free to post and promote however they want. So you have to kind of decide like what you're willing to tolerate as a Facebook group administrator, and then like is all of that worth your time to tolerate? And and also know entrepreneurs that have 30,000. I know one entrepreneur that we're actually going to probably start partnering with. She has 500,000 people in her Facebook group, and her Facebook group is how she eats. Right, she makes a ton of money on her Facebook group. So I mean, there is a possibility of doing that. You really have to, I would advise you to just study the ones that you think are super cool, the ones that are super active and super big, and just see kind of like what do you want your style to be, and if you think it's worth it overall time wise.
Super useful. Well, I knew this was going to come up. And so I'm glad it did. Heather, thank you for shouting you out for asking this question. So what about TikTok? And then her specific question is around, have you seen B2B strategies on TikTok be successful?
Yes, there are strategies that, in fact, TikTok just recently started a business department, a B2B department. Yes, there are strategies where TikTok is successful. Again, it's one of those things where it has to be something that can be demonstrated, that is demonstrable, because it's all about the video, right? So it's all about making sure that whatever it is, like we don't have a great TikTok strategy with A360 yet, because it's hard to demonstrate data. Data is basically text. There's not like a lot to look at, and like how do you explain the analogy in short form, right? But we have some new strategies we're coming up with. But basically, you have to make sure that you have something that's super interesting to watch that people can get in a few seconds. But yeah, B2B is totally possible. It's totally possible.
And I would assume the same kind of goes for Instagram and Reels.
Yeah, for Reels and Instagram, same thing. I am starting to see more business, just plain vanilla business stuff on there. But I mean, most of it's like, hot bods and food and beauty and wellness and all that kind of stuff. But there are definitely B2B pockets in Instagram that are successful. I've seen tons of coaches and experts that have huge Instagram followings, right? And most of it is inspirational content or encouragement for their community.
Awesome. Yeah, and I've heard recently that Instagram rewards people for using the new things. So Reels is the hot thing right now for those of you who are,
Reels is the new thing. Yeah, Reels is the big thing.
Let's see. What's your take on LinkedIn groups? They seem dead.
Yeah. Again, it depends on the moderator, right? There's some people, I just met a group through LinkedIn where they're super active, it's super curated, and there's a lot of big business happening on that group, both on Zoom and LinkedIn. So it doesn't mean it, I think just people don't know how to use them. I mean, it's like LinkedIn events. LinkedIn events is actually happening, but it's architected in a strange way so that it's kind of hard to convert events. And so you have to just know how to know the shortcomings of the platform and know how to work around them. And so that's what I've seen with groups, with LinkedIn groups. It's not the most robust platform, but you can utilize it. It can be leveraged, and you can work around it so that you can get the most out of it.
That's great advice. And we're almost at time, so hopefully we'll get to as many of these questions as possible. What platform do you recommend to find a freelance designer?
Ooh, freelance designer. So, it's interesting. I'm not a big fan of LinkedIn, getting talent via LinkedIn. I think, Instagram is probably a better place to get a designer. Designers tend to be on that platform, designers, photographers, people who are stylists. Those kinds of people tend to be on Instagram. I think Instagram is kind of the happening place, and people tend to respond to DMs on Instagram pretty easily if it's a legitimate opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I haven't thought about DMing designers on Instagram, but yeah, it makes total sense. And it's probably cheaper.
It's cheaper. It's cheaper than going through any. I've done everything. I mean, I've been around since the 90s, so it was like super hard to find designers in the 90s online. But I would say that, yeah, Instagram is fantastic for that. I found a lot of creatives on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, Marie, we are almost at time, but I did want to get a golden nugget before we let you and our attendees go off and put these strategies and tactics and tools into practice. So if somebody were to attend the last 2 minutes of this talk and you wanted them to take one thing away from this hour that we've spent together, what would it be?
Focus. Don't get too distracted. Don't try to be all things to all people. Don't try to do everything at the same time. Focus, get a solid goal under your belt, and then go to the next goal.
Awesome. Well, that's great advice, and really appreciate you sharing your wisdom with our community today. So on behalf of everybody at the team on the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center side, thank you so much. And for those of you who are attending, really appreciate it. Give us feedback. Let us know what you want us to host in the future. And we've got some great events coming up, so don't miss those. We'll follow up with all these resources and more links to what's coming up soon. But thanks again, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you online soon. Thanks again, Marie.